Welcome to Fact or Freestyle.
We discover hidden secrets of BMX.
And now we're going to find out what's going on.
Let's see how far down this rabbit hole we go.
So what that means is you and I have to invent additional bike parts. What would be the first bike part that you would add back onto bikes?
I always said that if I ever did anything like that, I would put brakes on a bike and then I'd go to Garrett Reynolds and be like, Garrett, I don't care if you even ever touch the brake lever, just run these brakes in this cable. But I mean, I don't know how hot Garrett is. I mean, Garrett's obviously a phenomenal rider, but I'm just saying that alone, I mean, you took away something from the industry. Like when you run brakes, you're constantly breaking brake cables. So you're constantly going in there and buying the brakes. So that's a reason you're coming into a bike shop. You're coming in there to buy it.
Because it's an emergency, because you got to get it fixed right now.
I mean, I know I've been on the road before or whatever, like, holy crap, I broke my front brake cable. I got to go find one. So, that's, it's just, you just look back at some of the stuff. I mean, Dave can tell you, I mean, years ago, I mean, it didn't last long, but I mean, look, used to, when you started out freestyling, you ran a number plate and you had all your sponsors on the number plate. You just didn't have a number. You just had all your sponsors on there. And I mean, it was everything, the grips that you run, the pads that you run, the pedals that you run, the chain, everything.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Do you think back in 1985, if Dave Norrie wasn't a closet smoker and he was open about his smoking, that Haro would have made a Haro master with an ashtray, like a little ashtray
Possibly.
right where that gusset was in the middle of the frame. Like they could have had like a little Dave Norrie ashtray with a little like flip, ash your cigarette, because don't you think that would have been cool? Or that probably
I think it would be fantastic. No, it'd be great. And you know what? If you have Denny Menny and Craigie Reggie's phone number, let's call them right now, because this is exactly what we need in BMX.
Yeah.
Is more of that energy.
Yeah. The Dave Norrie ashtray. It could be a clip-on, like all those, like GT sold everything under the sun.
Bolt-on is better.
A bolt-on ashtray, a Dave Norrie bolt-on ashtray. Wouldn't that be great? That would be so good.
You know what we could do? Hold on a second.
I don't know if I can endorse that.
I don't think you could, but I think it'd be.
Let's shout out poor boy Steve. He'll make an action figure of it.
He will. I mean, like, even though you never want to promote smoking, like cigarettes, are a big industry. You know what I mean? So. And
they took that away when people quit smoking. They took that away.
Yeah. So now, now he could get a coconut water holder, on his bike.
Yes.
I think they do that now.
But I think the point that Keith is making is that there's been a disconnect, and that maybe, where we were at a shop, and I remember reporting back to Haro and saying, yeah, the shop owner did great. They promoted it and they sold 7 or 8 complete bikes that day because they were there on the floor. And we also did
because
department stores. There was Shields, which was all through like North Dakota and all through that area, North, South Dakota, Montana, bunch of Shields. And that was like, they were department stores that carried Haro bikes, and they too did really well. So we were there to introduce it, and then it's like, here's the bike. If you want to get into this, here's what you need. And so there's a bit of a disconnect, but I don't know. I can't imagine people putting more parts back.
Well, you
on.
could do it dietarily. So, like, does Ron do shows at his acai restaurants?
I mean,
well, I don't know, but I doubt it.
I hear what Dave's saying, and he says he can't imagine people putting parts back on, but at the same time, could you imagine kids doing what they do with Todd Lyons? I mean, look at that whole movement there.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that would have catch on. Like, all right, let's go get like.
I love watching those dudes doing Flatland.
I've gone on those rides
in the park.
Yeah, but that right there. Look, you basically a whole different. Like, you back when I started in it, there was BMX, then freestyle come, and you either rode ramp or you flatland. Then street came along, Then dirt jumping really got big, and then street, like hardcore street.
Blew up.
And it's almost like a whole category has morphed out with these big bikes
Yeah.
from BMX. Like you wouldn't have told, I mean, I see what he's saying. Like, can you imagine, would kids ever go back and put all that stuff on? I don't know. I would have never imagined you to come to me and it's like, yeah, Keith, there's going to be such a demand for kids riding 26 and 29-inch
Right.
bikes, and all they're going to do is wheelies. That's all they want to do.
You can't, I mean, I can't imagine that you could actually get good at wheelies and then stop progressing from wheelies. If once you get that in your blood, you got to go to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. So I would predict that there's probably another era as these kids who wheelie get several years down the road and they start to get like better and better, that they'll be able to diversify out and do sort of take it to some other surface, take it to some other bike type.
Or if they just look at all these kids in the third world countries doing pedaling death trucks.
Dude,
Yeah, I mean, how many times have you seen
that's
that pop up?
insane. The dudes in
but
India
you don't
are
see-
going crazy right now.
Yeah, I think an important point to consider is that, okay, that whole movement with the big bikes, it's just creating something that people were gravitating to. And in the 80s, when we were traveling around, people were getting magazines, they were looking at, and they're going, well, let's go to the bike shop. Then they were seeing the bikes, then they'd see a poster, oh, the GT Tour is coming through. And so like that kind of excitement. And now it's for at least the big bikes, they come out and they go on these rides. And I think, Ray, you were going to mention you went on a ride recently? Or?
Oh yeah, you went on one.
I've been on 3 of them so far, 3 or 4, like 2 or 3 in Philly and then the one in Florida, and they're really, really fun. Like,
yeah,
sometimes like the ones in Philly, the kids can get in a little trouble because that's just the nature of the crowd of the kids that are there. But to see like 2,000 PK rippers flying down the street, it's really fun. It's really fun to watch. And we had a bunch of us went out, and my friend Warren and I think Gary was there with us. Like they brought their regular bikes they ride, and they were doing tricks like doing flatland, like Gary would do, a fire hydrant or some pinky squeaks. And the kids were like, first of all, they were like, who are these old men? Because, when you're 15 and you're like, when you're 14 and you're the wheelie king, and then you see these 50-year-old men doing like 7 pinky squeaks or something, or doing just like, I think, a couple, maybe someone got up into like a surfer or something. And then the next time we saw these kids, they were doing surfers, which was pretty cool. I don't know if they picked it up from Warren or whoever, but
so that's
they
the
definitely were
infiltration.
interested.
So that's the infiltration strategy, is to send dudes
Yeah.
into these bike
But
mobs.
I know exactly what Ray is talking about, because we raced. I never raced, and I decided my daughter acted like she was interested in racing, so I raced with her this year. We went to probably about 24 races locally, and they had a thing in at Christmas, right before Christmas. They said, the BMX track, everybody's going to come down and ride through the Christmas parade. And I was like, hey, honey, do you want to go ride in the parade? Yeah, Daddy, let's go ride in the parade. Well, I didn't take my race bike.
of course.
I took my Flatland
It's a parade.
bike.
Yeah, it's a parade.
So there's like about 25 race kids there that have seen us at the track. They have no clue that I have any Flatland skills or anything. And I just bust out into some, like Ray said, some pinky squeaks or gyrator. And these kids instantly were just like, jaw was on the floor, like, oh my gosh, they've never seen it. And they were all about it. The moms are coming up like, do you give lessons and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of same thing what Ray was saying, like they haven't seen it, and then there's some old guys there just busting out, and then they want to do it.
Hey Keith, I got a question about that.
Yeah.
Did you ever get dates that way? Kids
Like in Rad?
grab their moms and say, hey, let's.
No, I mean, I've been out riding Flatland somewhere and met a girl I dated way back years ago. That's how I met her. I was riding Flatland on the corner.
That's how Gabe Weed met his wife.
Yeah, she was always walking the dog through the parking lot in Huntington Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Joe, Where did I meet my wife? This is part of your training. I've told you like 3 times, and if you don't know, you're slowly digressing if you can't tell me where I met my wife. Joe. I feel like sometimes I talk to you, you just don't listen. Everything I tell you, it should sink in your head and you should use it in your life.
I mean, I'm taking show notes.
Yeah. I met my wife at the York Jam in 2003. I met my wife at the York Jam, standing next to Mark Eaton.
Was that when you were medium, Ray?
Oh, I was a lot thinner back then, probably 100 pounds less back then. But
there was a medium Ray phrase, and
there was a medium Ray back then.
I remember you showed up, and we were like, "What the heck happened?" You're like, "I've been riding my ass off on mountain bikes."
Oh, that was the early. That was the early York Jam. Yeah, I showed up at the York Jam once at like 190 pounds, and that was spectacular.
So Joe, you do need to make a note of that because you are a plywood hood now, and I didn't hear that before, but now I'm making note of it. 2003, what happened in 2003 at York Jam? Ray met his wife.
And then you got married in 2006 or 2005?
2006. We got married September 2006, and I met her in July of 2003.
Can I tell you guys something?
Oh, I don't know.
Because my heart just kind of sang, and I have told exactly 5 people. I have not told this to my parents. My family doesn't know.
Joe, I still like you no matter what.
Wait, before you said, does your family watch?
No, they don't.
Joe, no matter what you're going to tell us,
I think my family hates me, but they don't watch this. They can't handle it.
Joe, whatever you're going to tell us right now, my view does not change. I still love you as a plywood hood brother. And unless you like murdered somebody or like killed some puppies, then I won't like you anymore. But anything other than that, I'll still like you. I'll still love you. Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Well, wait, before you go, because this is kind of crucial. If your parents watch this show, are they going to be like,
no, they won't.
Excited about this news, or is this?
Of course, they're going to be excited about it, but they don't.
Oh, it's good news. Okay, it's good news.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yes, it's good news.
I know what it is.
Wait, let's guess. Let's guess. Go around. Joe, what is it? Ray, what is it?
I think Joe's getting married.
Oh, that's a good guess. What do you think it is, Keith? Keith, what do you think it is? He's got some news.
I think Ray's onto something.
It's either that or someone's having a baby.
Or a baby. Oh, a child. What about Gail? Let's ask Gail. Gail, what do you think? Joe's got some news. What do you think?
I have no idea.
No idea.
Really.
Hey, Yellow, are you with us? Can you hear us, Yellow?
Yellow.
Yes.
Brother.
Yo, what's up?
Hey, Joe's got some big announcement that he wants to share. What do you think it is?
Oh boy, let's see here. Joe, he's moving out of the United States.
Good guess. Okay, Joe. Drum roll.
So what you are looking at, I am on Monday.
Oh no.
At what will be 7:30 a.m. at dawn. My life partner and I will be married. Angie and I will be married here.
Yeah.
Good
And
job.
it will be the two of us privately.
I'm
7:30
coming.
a.m. on Monday.
I know. I'm
this
booking a
Monday?
flight.
This Monday?
No, I mean Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I'm coming. Yeah, no, it's Monday.
It's Monday, 7 a.m.
Privately.
Yeah. Privately, yes.
Privately in what way? Like just the two of you in that
There's
dirty
going to
floor
be-
you ride bikes on?
We right here on the
In the garage.
No,
I call it the
this
garage.
is in front of.
You just said it's 19 degrees.
Looking at the sunrise. Oh yeah,
That
it's
picture.
a very short ceremony. This is my property. This is like
Is that picture 151,255 out of 151,373 pictures?
oh yeah, sure is.
What are you talking about?
151,000. If you
You can
look at
do
the
it.
top, like right here at the top,
Yeah.
Keith is counting how many photos I have on my iCloud account.
Yeah. Well, I would
Wait,
say at least
So
3,000 of them.
so
are-
wait a minute. You're getting married are you getting married Monday, like in a couple days?
Yes.
and you're doing it at 7 something in the morning, and no one's going to be there except for you and Angie, and someone's
Yes.
going.
Yes.
Is there?
7
it-
a.m.
Who's going?
for Joe is like
Who's
10
going to
o'clock
marry
in the
you?
day.
Who's marrying you?
There's a guy in town that I Googled and found, and he gave me all of these. Hold on, he gave me all of these like Mad Lib type. Well, how do you want this ceremony? The ceremony, and he's like, do you want the unity candle? I'm like, unity candle, what's that? He's like, well, each of you holds a candle, and then you both light
Light
the
another
candle
one.
that symbolizes you coming together, and then you both extinguish the candle that represents you. And I'm like, nah, dog, we ain't doing that. I am not extinguishing my the person. I'm not extinguishing. I'm not going to ask my life partner to extinguish her flame ever. So I decided to write it, and so I have written the whole thing.
We should wake up Brett with this and
Bullshit.
7
We
in the
should.
morning.
Yeah.
I gotta pack my car and get there by.
I know. I got to
Monday.
book. I got to book
wanna
a
be there.
flight. I mean,
I want to be in the.
Oh.
I want to be in the background of like the first wedding picture, like this, like
This will
doing one of these, like the.
This will absolutely not fly. It's going to
So-
be me and Angie.
well, thank you for sharing that news.
Yeah,
Joe.
I had to share the news, and Ray was
Congratulations.
right.
Yeah, Ray
I was right. You know what?
You're
I'm
the
always
winner.
right. You know why?
Yeah,
Because I've been around for a long time and I've seen it all, and I can read people, and I
Yes.
could see that sparkle in Joe's eye. Now I see fear, but
Let's
he'll be okay.
welcome Yellow. Yellow, thanks for joining. And you just got through teaching a BMX class, is that right? Or did you do a show as well, or was it just
No,
class?
I taught 2 private lessons, 2 hours each. So yeah, 4 hours of private riding. 2 kids, one's 10 and one is 16. So they're both really stoked, man. They've got good bikes. They're excited about spring. They're back in school. Masks are off. They're both hitting some new stuff today. So that was awesome.
Where do they get their bikes?
One got it at Pusher BMX shop, and one looks like he may have gotten it on Craigslist or something. It was a Hoffman,
Okay.
but it was from a bike shop that used to be in business that's no longer in business, had a sticker on there.
Yeah, we were talking about it earlier, just like the difference of what today, rider that gets introduced to the sport versus when I was touring and traveling, it was all the shows were at bike shops. And then that's where kids obviously would go and buy. Now so much. Keith King is on, and he was talking about how many of the bikes now are ordered through mail order. And I do my classes as well. And there isn't really a bike shop that carries Freestyle. They carry BMX, but like Freestyle, and especially Flatland bikes. So I sent them Flatland Fuel, and that's where they get their bikes.
Maybe the bike shops should hold bike skills clinics. I mean, everybody's going to buy stuff mail order, but you can't get one-on-one coaching mail order. That still has to be like person to person.
Right. Yeah. Gail,
Yeah.
what do you have to say about this? Because you're such an insightful person. Like, how do we make that connection to the potential rider and then, the bike to get them on to basically, learn the tricks?
I think the bike riders have so much to do with it, because after all the shows, the thousands of people were in front of for all those years, I always noticed that some of the skaters will go to the skaters and ask them questions that you would never think a kid would ask. But I've seen the bike riders stand for so long. Eddie, Martin, I mean, I can name all the riders. All my riders were so great at that, very hyper kids, of course. But parents would come up with the kids, and the 10-year-old, 9-year-old, 12-year-old kids would ask questions about the bearings and the placement of when they come out with the handlebars that spun. Yes. Yeah. Things like that. And I really believe with all the thousands of people we met and all the riders, they didn't just every time a show ended, run out and get something to eat. They actually stayed and signed autographs and talked about the bikes because there were so many questions. And I hear some of the stuff that you guys are talking about. Kids need to know that, but when the parent is standing behind them, the kids aren't running home. Guess what I need today? The they made a connection. So
Yeah.
whether it's Eddie or Martin or whoever, they can answer those questions like these, all the riders here, and you too, Nora. When I was at Woodward and watched you, it was just mind blowing. But these are all bike riders. They kind of know the components. But when you really don't know, and a little 10-year-old kid or 12 or 15 or 18, they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
So, but when others are asking questions, they'll join in. So you need the guys like you to answer those questions. And I
So
mean, we sold countless thousands of new bikes just because the kids were able to talk to their heroes. Like all you guys are heroes.
yeah, so Joe, I think that's exactly what we talked about last week, is this, you know, the importance of inclusivity and like the show. And I also had the thought of like, there's big shows like the Nitro Circus, which it's a very disconnected. I've never been, so I don't know, but I'm guessing it's nothing like the experience of someone going to a CW show, like, you know, what Keith had talked about, where you are right there and you can hang out and you can make that connection. And how can we, I don't know, work that back into the overall?
Well, let me say a couple things about Nitro Circus, because I went to a Nitro Circus show in Dayton. It was probably a couple of years back because Zach was announcing it. And so it was really cool. He got me in. I sat with his family and I met his kid, Grayson, who at the time I thought the kid's name was actually Dracula, because Zach told me his kid's name was Dracula. And so when I met the kid, I said, "Is this Dracula?" And his baby mama said, "His name's Grayson." And I was like, "I'm sorry." Anyway, Zach it was in a like a football field, track field. Okay, so along the outside they had the gravel or the stuff that people run on.
Right.
And Zach would get on the mic and go over to see the crowd, and the kids would just swarm down there because he would do these little contests or whatnot. Zach was incredible on a mic. And so he would engage the kids there. Then after the show, like they could come down through the stands, and then they could get autographs and stuff like that. So it was Todd, it was me and Todd. I want to say Nitschke was there too. I think Todd's kids were there too. And so we were hanging out after the show, and like Ryan Williams was there signing autographs. Travis Pastrana was over there signing autographs. And so there's an opportunity to still engage even in those big stadium shows. But what was super cool was if you could sneak your way towards there, you could hang out with your heroes, which was like way super cooler than like waiting in a cattle call sort of line, which is cool. But like if you want to like get inside the head of some of these dudes, you could totally snooker your way.
Did you say
basically to the
snooker?
You said schnooker. Schnooker.
Yeah, I want to say something
Backstage.
too about Nitro.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, like when Dave was just talking about, like, I said the first show I saw was a CW show. The thing about a show like the CW show back in the day, and not much has changed except we use a quarter pipe in a box. So like if a kid comes to my show, he comes to Yella's show, comes to Gail's show, that type of show, and if there's Flatland involved, and then you've got a box and quarter, I think a kid can realistically look at that and be like, "Hey, I could do that. I could do." Now, not taking anything away from Nitro, I went to some of the first Nitros when they were in the NBA arenas. That was when James Foster was on it. And the one that I went to see in Philly, Ray probably went to that one too, indoors.
It was really good.
That was hands down the best live show I think I've ever seen in my life.
Without a doubt, yeah.
When you see 10 freestyle motocrossers all do the same trick, it looks like a come to life sequence photo. Like it was incredible. But when you go to Nitro Circus now, just like what Joe is talking about, you go and sit down and you're looking at a freaking 80-foot or however tall the roll-in is to that ramp. That's not something that is attainable for every kid in the United States. You can go to the skate park and you can jump a box. Like most time you're going to find a box jump that's an 8-foot box. You're not going to be able to go to skate parks and find something like Nitro. So I think it does wonders and it does good, but sometimes it may dampen, like a kid could go there and get excited and be like, well, how the heck am I ever going to learn a triple backflip? But if they come to my show or Yella's show or Gail's and like, oh, a dude did a 360, I could learn a 360. I could do that. So, you know, that.
And also the point about the parent, like the kid comes back from Nitro, maybe he went with his buddy and he comes back, it's like, it's amazing. And I want to get into that. And the parent's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, we're not going to send you launching down an 80-foot jump. You know, like, I think it's a little like going back to what we want to encourage, you know, something that's realistic and giving them the opportunity to take, the steps, because that's like,
but at the same time, though, too, the parent goes there and they see people like, you know, Pastrana or Willie or whatever, and they're like, oh, these guys actually have a career in this.
Yeah,
That's another thing too, that my mom and dad were like, you know, I couldn't drive, so they took me to the show like, oh, I want to do that. Well, yeah, you need to get your education, but you can do that, you know, that type of thing. So it does help. I think Nitro definitely helps legitimize like what we do, because I mean, and for years, and I don't know if Yella experienced this or not, but you know, me and him have done some of the same things. I had family members that I hadn't talked to in years. They knew I did the stunt show, but when we did America's Got Talent, oh my God, I'm getting messages on Facebook. Oh, that's great. You finally made it. And I'm like,
I've been here a long time.
We did Monday Night Football like 10 years ago. So I think that, so, I mean, I don't know if, you know, the legitimization, I mean, Yella could probably add to that too. He probably got some of the same things. It was like, just because it was on that show, and all it did was it exposed it. You know, a lot of people that watched BMX, they only saw it on ESPN. And then when it went on NBC, I think that's what America's Got Talent was on, it exposed it to a whole different demographic and viewers.
I had a similar experience with our team being on AGT. We basically cracked into popular culture like we'd never done before. And it was the one thing you could actually mention that pretty much everybody had heard of. And when you said you were on that show, we're legitimized beyond being in X Games or a Do Tour or any of that. You know, plenty of people haven't heard of the Nitro Circus. You know, it's just like that AGT has been going strong for a lot of years, and they have a lot of marketing money. And to have BMX on there, I mean, it was really cool. I think it was a good opportunity.
The average
it was
person
super
watches that show.
Yeah. And we got recognized in the airports and stuff. It was so crazy.
Yeah.
We did 4 live shows, so we got quite a bit of airtime in that season. And we got recognized at a restaurant, and we also got recognized at an airport, just walking as a group. And it was like, fellas, this is what it's like to be famous on a tiny level when people start recognize you on the street, you know?
And the thing is we didn't even, Yella can attest to that. We weren't even able to go full throttle at what our 100% what our capability was, because they put us in such a confined space. So we couldn't really even do what we
couldn't exercise our capacities at all.
Yeah. But just because it was on that show, it's like it legitimized it. Like, I kid you not, there was an aunt that I hadn't talked to she's kind of like estranged from our family. Probably ain't talked to her 25 years. As soon as we went on there, Facebook messaging popping up. Oh my gosh.
Really?
Congratulations.
Yeah, I was just actually going through some old computer files and just dropping stuff into the trash, and I came across all the waivers for America's Got Talent.
Oh, wow.
And it was like what, 50 pound,
the further you got in it,
like
the more
it's like a
waiver.
full of waivers. You need to have all the guys on your team sign all these and get them back to us, and they need to pass a background check. They need to pass a physical. I'm like, man, how BMX crews I know couldn't even pass the background checks on this shit, you know? So
It was so much stuff to print. Like we had to go to Kinko's because the printer didn't have enough ink. A brand new cartridge didn't even have enough ink. Like you couldn't print that much. But I mean, there was when we went to Vegas, one of my riders couldn't go because we couldn't get the doctor's signature because he had diabetes, and the doctor wouldn't sign off until she did his yearly checkup, and his yearly checkup was after the date. And
Oh, no
she
kidding.
held, and we totally couldn't even bring Jared. That was Jared Ward. We couldn't bring him to Vegas because we didn't have a doctor's slip.
So going back to Nitro Circus though, as far as riding and riding, like pushing the element, because like I sent a message to Joe this morning about, do you guys, anyone know the name Ellie Chu? Anyone on this call?
Yeah, she's
What
a
do you
bike
know?
rider.
she's a BMXer, right? A girl BMXer.
Girl
Yep.
BMXer.
She's from New Zealand, and she attempted a double backflip.
Doesn't she ride for Haro maybe?
I don't remember who she's sponsored by, but I know. So
She tried to double Nitro.
Yeah, she tried it. Yeah, on the big gap jump double backflip, and nearly
she's
pulled
done
it.
them.
She's done them.
I think I saw somewhere where she had done them. This may be the first time in front of a crowd.
Yeah, I was just kind of trying to see, like, so exposing people to that, I think, is pretty phenomenal, and the numbers.
Yeah.
And then it's like, how can we also just get down in the grassroots to reach the riders that want to get interested in starting to try some of these things, What do you do for shows these days, Yellow? Are you doing much shows, or are you mostly just doing classes?
I will start doing shows. We've got some booked. We've got some school shows coming up, and then we've got a bike to work day. We're going to be residents at a brewery every third Friday of the month. We're going to set up the ramp at that brewery. So yeah, shows are happening. I've just started to schedule a bunch of them. So, and to get kids into riding at our shows, I feel like, our shows, Keith, Gale's, my style shows are better for getting kids into it than Nitro Circus, because it is more accessible, and you do see some flatland. Typically, flatland is what got me into riding, is just watching the Kuahara trick team. I saw Mike Loveridge do a hang 5, and I'd been messing around on some stationary tricks, but once I saw a hang 5 in person, something changed in me. It was like, I didn't think that was possible, number one. Number two, I just saw it. Number three, I'm going to start working on something that I didn't think was possible. And it changed it all. And so I think flatland is one of the best ways to introduce a rider to doing something different on their bike than just screwing around in the cul-de-sac. Like, to actually put in time. Once you start to put in time without anybody telling you to go out and do it, like, oh, get your violin, get your trumpet out of the case and get practicing.
Right.
No, like BMX, once you start doing it without anybody telling you, you're onto something, and that's what I look for in my students, when they can actually come back to a lesson and tell me they've been riding and they progressed and now they finally got a foot jam tail whip, and there's just no shortcuts in BMX. And you can't just go out and throw a ball with your dad or your brother and learn a technique. You have to just plug away, yourself. You have to learn your own body's technique, because everybody does a foot jam their own way.
Yeah. Hey, Gail, what about you? As far as are you still actively booking shows and putting on shows?
Not as many as we used to. We were doing hundreds a year.
Yeah.
We were talking 4-day, 5-day, but they were huge. They were really, really big. I do a lot of stuff for cities. We have trying to keep in touch with the Boys and Girls Club. So we bust out our small kick ramps. And in every single one of my shows, I always really paid attention to the flatland and the beginning flatland. So whoever the rider may be would do the stuff that all these little kids, like, I can do that. My whole thing was to give kids hope they can do it. So
Yeah.
go out and buy that bike. Ask, then my riders were always really ready to answer all the questions they need. You know, what about a gyro? What about this? And so it put together something of, but when it started over 40 years ago and how it escalated. I mean, we're doing shows for the Navy. I mean, and knots. I mean, we were everywhere. I mean, major shows. So we had thousands, and a lot of them, it was entertainment.
Yeah.
But when they would come back show after show, the same kids. I mean, I get texts all the time because I post a lot of my old photos, and people seem to love it. And then now with the book coming out, the kids will always say, you'll never know what you did. You inspired us, not just me personally, my riders, whatever they did. But the bikes were like the happening thing all the time. When they got on the ramps and did the stand, it's all the flips and everything. That was above what a lot of them knew. Like, I don't know if I'll ever do that, but maybe I can. So we always made sure we did small shows, which we still do on call anytime. We do the Boys and Girls Clubs or whatever we can do, is get these kids excited about getting on a darn bike, and you could do anything. The world is yours. And it gave them hope, inspiration, and I can do it. And you could see them coming back. They'll come back to one of my riders 9 days straight, 4 or 5 shows a day.
Yeah.
That's lots of shows. So they come back and go, I learned that trick. I hear the kids going, I learned that trick. And our riders would actually sit on that bike and like show a group of the kids. Maybe 4 out of the 30 that they were really watching, they came back, and it just showed all the ones that didn't come back, but you knew they probably went out and bought a bike, hopefully, and they got started doing something they loved. They just felt the fit, so to speak. And
Yeah.
most kids I met were pretty aggressive, you know, and you could tell along the line from when I first started, you know, 30 years later, kids were really a little bit more active, a little bit a lot of hostile because of the things going on in our world. But if you get a kid doing something they believe in and makes them feel good about themselves, you can save that kid.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm getting all the time now. Is I didn't know it at the time, but thank you so much.
Some of the shows that we've done them for 20 years, and you've seen kids grow up. They come back every year.
Wow.
And they
Wow.
say, you know, you're the reason that I got into BMX. I saw your show. And Yella probably knows this, and maybe Ray knows it. But you know, Hoffman was doing shows at the Texas State Fair, the Sprocket Jockey shows, and Morgan Wade saw that show there.
Yeah, I know that story.
No way.
That's how
Yeah.
Morgan got into BMX, was from seeing Sprocket Jockey show in the 90s. And now look at where Morgan's at. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
you never know.
You
what
never know.
The rider is going to be. I mean, look at what happened with me. I mean, I went to that TW show, and you know, I've posted an album of that on. I posted an album with that on my Facebook, and I went back and tagged Mr. C, which was Todd Crane, and I tagged Diz Hicks and Buff and Sappy. Would have I ever have dreamed in 1985 that 30 years down the road that I would be posting, I didn't know what the internet was, that I would be posting this basically on a virtual billboard, and that I would still be able to talk to Diz or Mike or the bike shop owner. And, you know, the bike shop owner messaged me and he goes, you know, Keith, I bought so many bikes from CW. They just did that show for me for free.
Hey.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
You know, I was thinking, after listening to all of you, can you imagine all of us together, how many people's lives we've changed?
Collectively?
Yeah.
Wow.
Right. It's astounding to think of that. You know,
Well, I mean, you know, Yella called me when he did Denver Broncos and wanted to know advice because I'd done a bunch of NFL games. And I said, you've got to understand that when you go on that football field and you're in front of 60,000 people, you're representing BMX.
Yeah.
You let BMX look good. You make it look good because you may be the first time somebody's seen BMX. It may be you at that game.
Yeah.
There's a lot waiting.
Whenever I go into those shows, I go in that with that mentality. I want kids to look at it and say, I want to be, you know, in it. I'll tell you a quick story real quick about it, a fair. We're doing the fair up in Nashville, Tennessee. And there was a high dive act, you know, where and it's a whole team of guys. And the high dive act was themed. It was themed a safari act, like they were in a zebra costume, and one was in a lion costume, one was in a tiger costume. And we were setting up the quarter pipe, and I remember that show was starting, and we looked over and seen these college kids that were divers that were in the show, and we just stopped and looked, and then we looked back at each other, and then I looked at my guys and I said, let's hope that no one ever looks at us at the way we're looking at that dive team right now, because we were like, what the heck is that? You never know. I mean, there are people that probably could come to our show and look at us like that, but they're just being so weird. Like, I hope no one ever looks at us like that.
Yeah, Joe and I were talking about how, like, the value of you being the front, you know, you being riders that go out and promote BMX and do shows. And there, I mean, we're kind of trying to scratch our head because we feel like there's some kind of group that we're not aware of. Joe, what were you calling it again?
Yes, we believe that an Illuminati exists that tests that only certain show riders, you have to like take a test. You have to be knighted to be in this. And so, you know, Yellow, what are the tests that you give to your riders in the show, and how do you condition them to be show riders? Like, because people can't just say, hey, Yellow, put me in a show. They've got to be prepared in some way, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I typically don't have somebody just show up and start in a show. I ride with them at a skate park, or they come out and practice with us at the on the ramp. But a few key elements that I would say are necessary from a show rider are, they've got to have their bike dialed. That's number one, because it's going to be on the spot for 30 minutes. Crap mid-show, then you got to work on it, and that's a guy out. So having a dialed bike and having a person that has their stuff together, organized, like their tools, extra tube, their clothes look decent for a show. Another thing is, what do they do when they crash? If they kick their bike and scowl, cuss, I don't want them. I've got to have somebody that's like laughing when they fall. You know, they get up like, I got bucked off. Whoopie-doo, watch me do push-ups, you know, or whatever. There's so much that you can learn by showing someone, or so much you can teach by showing someone how to fail. Yeah. And I think it's really important to be able to fail with grace and also tough and get up and do it again. Because if you didn't think you could have done it, why did you try it? So go back and try it again. Yeah. And that's how it's always been. We've always been the one more time team where, yes, you know, the guy's sprawled out and the crowd is like, oh my God, do we need to call an ambulance? No, one more time. I mean, get loud. He's got it, you know? And so, yeah. Those are just a few. I won't answer all the things I think a show rider needs, but those are my top few. Are have your shit together when you come to ride, and when you crash, jump up. It's gonna happen, you know. Jump up and smile, whatever. So it's a great way to teach kids that failure is a part of success.
So I would love to understand or hear the origin story of One More Time, because Yellow, I have been led to believe that One More Time is what got you on Morales. And I would love for you to take us back to the time that you got on Morales and tell us about your contest run at that event.
Oh gosh, well, it's a bit of a blur, the details of that run, and it's been a lot of years. I do remember just going for crazy shit. Like there was a handrail on the box jump, or a box jump with a handrail, and I was trying to do a 360 and land on the rail, like jump the box, land on the rail. I mean, I was just eating shit. And I was competing in flat, street, and vert. And so it was just like I was bleeding from, both elbows. Freaking, I had all these pads on. I'd get off the flatland or get off the street course, go to the flatland course. Then it's time to practice for vert. So I got to go put on the full face, the chest protector. And I mean, long story short, I was just riding like an animal, and I'm up on the vert ramp, and I look down at the Morales booth, and Bob Morales is down there with all of his shiny new bikes, and he's just like points up at me, and then he's like, he mouths the words, "When you're done, I want to see you." And then he starts, he does this, like, "When you're done riding, come down here," and I just was like, I think he's inviting me to be riding one of his bikes. I totally got that vibe as soon as he was saying that. And, I was unsponsored, free agent, all paying for everything on my own. And so, yeah, I did. I ended up getting hooked up, and he powder coated those BTS frames, that super heavy frames, like beer can diameter chromoly tubing. I still have that frame.
I was gonna say,
but he
still have that frame.
He got it. So yeah, I got a yellow powder coated BTS frame, and I put a super fork, a Hoffman super fork, and I think the thing topped out at like 52 pounds with pegs and it was ridiculous heavy.
That, I found out recently that frame is really rare, Yellow. It's rare. And I saw one going for like, and Ray keeps up with vintage stuff too, but they're going for over in the thousands now, because there are not many of them made at all. In fact, all the Moraleses are bringing big money.
Okay, yeah, I know. They were a pretty small company.
Yeah.
Hey, I just want to welcome Carl Hinckley. Thanks for joining. I like your hairdo, by the way. It's looking
Yeah,
fresh.
how's it going, guys? Sorry,
Hey,
I've been a little caught out.
Carl, can you turn your phone, and Yellow, can you turn your phone too? Yeah, turn your phone.
Does that work?
Yeah, that's better.
Yes.
Yeah.
How's it
Hey,
going, everybody?
Yeah, I
What's
just
up,
want to
Carl?
say something though about Yellow, and thanks for coming, Carl, and we'll get to you in just 1 second. But Yellow, I think you really, the best part about that story is that I think we've got the head honcho that we need to talk to, Bob Morales. So Joe, maybe he's the one that's gotten to all these riders and has planted that seed in his way. Do you have any connections with Bob Morales, Keith? I'm trying to connect the dot that maybe
Me?
he's the one.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, sure. Gail, do you have any
Oh, no,
connections?
no. Yeah, I talk to him all the time. He's still one of my sponsors, and I don't know who you were actually directing that question to, so I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. And what about you, Keith?
No, I don't know. I don't know him at all. Only time I ever ran across him was at the Marina Valley contest.
He's at the races all the time. He's racing. I go and take photos. I do a lot of sports photography. So I'm at the races all the time he's races like crazy. He's an outstanding motocross racer. His kids are into it, so it's amazing.
Wasn't there like a Fiola Morales thing back in the day too? I mean, Fiola.
Yeah, they toured together.
Yeah,
Eddie stepped.
Yeah, there was like a jersey with their name on it, FM or something, wasn't it? Or
I'm not Eddie. Oh, here's Eddie right now. Hold on, ask that question again.
Wait 1 second, I gotta put the earpiece in.
I was just asking what the Morales.
Wait just a second. He's got to put his earpiece in. Ask it one more. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, what's the question?
They were asking about Morales, and I was there. I remember wasn't there a Fiola Morales jersey or something? You guys joined?
Yes, it was an
84
MF jersey. Yeah, the early 80s. It was before we joined up with GT. We just got off of Kuahara. Bob Morales was doing his BME, Bob Morales Enterprises, back in the day. And yeah, so Fiola Morales just happened to be, the MF sticker the deal that we did.
And then I guess it wasn't long after that Dyno come up or something.
Yeah, so Bob also did Dyno, and our collaboration with GT, we started riding for GT, and we didn't they didn't have a freestyle frame back then. And since Bob used to ride for Torker, he wanted that double top tube style. So that's where that platform came for on the Performer. And then I invented the little bend in the bottom of the down tube because I needed the brakes to spin around. So that's where that came around.
Ah, interesting. Makes sense.
Yeah. So was that answered?
Yeah. I was just asking about the Morales' name come up, and I just remember everybody's asking about him. I'm like, well, Eddie's right there. Ask him. He used to be on the
Eddie, my point was, I think Bob Morales actually secretly have been telling these riders to go out there and do shows and do BMX. And I'm just trying to connect that dot. And maybe they have some, like Keith King won't speak into it, but maybe there's some oath that he had to sign or something that he had to. What do you got there?
That's what Eddie's talking about.
Old GT ad. Yeah. We didn't invent freestyle, just perfected it.
I was sold, man. I wanted to, that was my first real bike, as a GT Pro Performer, which was promptly stolen. And then I had to go buy a bike piece by piece, man. Wow. I did, but I switched to Haro at that point. Haro stole my heart. So yeah.
Was it me, Brian? Was it the Gumby?
You were probably a little bit of it all, yeah, for sure.
I wanted
to, of course, Wilkerson, Hoffman, Blyther. I mean, yeah, you guys were the dream team, dude.
I wanted to share a story earlier that came up, Keith, when you were talking about how you were looking at magazines and you would see, Woody doing a little bar endo and you thought he was flying out into it. Yeah. So, Brad.
I'm still laughing at Keith imagining that you would air a quarter pipe and then land in a nori handstand.
Here's the one right here. That's the one of. You see this one of the track stand? You see?
Yeah. Yeah, and he's doing. Yeah.
I thought he had aired the quarter and landed like that. Like when I first met this magazine.
Your imagination, Keith, you have great imagination. So
all right, so this is where it comes from. So Ray posted this video years ago of him. He was on top of a half pipe in Woodward, and someone flared and they ate it. And he goes, "Look at that, flared a Gumby."
Well,
do you not remember that? I'll have to find that. Yeah, it was. I think it was you and Matt, and it was Woodward East, and you were indoors on top of the half pipe, and someone was riding.
I don't think it was me. Was it on a Facebook post?
I saw it on Facebook, and I don't know that it was from. I mean, if it was one of your videos, you would have known it, but that stuck in my mind. Because I was thinking it, and then you said it, and I was like, "Oh my god!"
I don't remember it, and I remember everything, and I don't remember that at all.
Oh boy! Well,
the story I wanted to share, Joe, was about.
All right, sorry. Back
Brad
to you,
McDonald. Dave. So Brad McDonald, I went to this event down in Anaheim, and we did there was a trade show, and I hadn't seen Brad for years. And he came up to me and he was all like kind of embarrassed about this. He's like, "I have something that I need to share with you." And it's when I first saw the picture of you doing a Gumby, I thought that the pedal wasn't hitting the ground. I thought you were actually just balancing the bike like I would on a nori handstand. And he said he tried it like over and over and over. So when Keith, and he was embarrassed by it, he's like, "I can't believe, and here I am trying this Gumby, just eating it, just the bike just tumbling over." And that the pedal was never, so he didn't look close enough. And it's like, what's interesting is that element is kind of lost a little bit because we don't, everyone has access to the actual footage and video and, Instagram, YouTube, or what have you. But it's still interesting to think about how we go to a very creative mindset in, looking at that, like, wow, that looks really well.
How could that be possible?
How could that be possible? Happen? And then I'm going to, and not even, even take it to the next level, because there are people that now do flyouts, you know, and then Wilkerson would do flyout into Miami Hopper. I mean, it's not, Keith, it wasn't like it was that far fetched.
What?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Joe, please don't tell me. Who on this call knows that Ron
I
Wilkerson,
know the Miami Hopper drop in.
he flies out.
Fly
into
out to
Miami
Miami
Hopper.
Hopper.
Yeah, so
Ray?
did Bob.
Oh,
Cole,
it's not so much a fly out. It's kind of like rolling up and then
a nose
doing
pick.
yeah, it's almost like a nose pick into a. It's not like
Okay,
he's
so
doing like
still-
a.
Same
all
because
right.
it's like
When you say-
270 degrees.
When Dave's fly out, he makes it sound like he's doing like a Volker fly out and then landing in that
Well,
position.
you know,
You're meaning
look at the
it's
coat I'm
more
wearing.
like
Look at the coat I'm
it's
wearing.
almost like he's
Flashy.
doing like a fakey almost, and then just kind of getting to the coping and then dropping it down. That's what you're saying, right?
yeah.
Okay, well
I
then
mean,
say it like that next time.
There is a full
Well-
a full video of Bob Cole actually doing the whole riding out of a half pipe, doing a Miami Hopper, and then dropping back in. So I don't know.
He also
I know
wouldn't he
Wilkerson-
also do? He would do a fly out and
So
do a
grip
bar
ride.
ride across,
Yeah, do a
and
rip
then
ride
jump
across
in.
the- yeah,
Yeah.
across
Yeah,
the-
he stole that trick from me. I used to do that.
Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
I
Who
can't
is,
remember what
um,
video. Is that in Ride On that he does that?
I don't know.
It's in one of Eddie. It may be in one of Eddie Roman's videos.
Hey,
Yeah,
so
head
Carl,
first.
Bob Cole is
Right
also the first guy to flip a motorcycle too, supposedly.
Who?
Yeah.
I think that's true. Yeah,
I believe that's true. Yeah.
he would do it. I think it was in the circus on an
He
80
did it on
or
an
something
80,
like
I
that.
think. He was doing it on like an 80.
hey, I want to
Excuse
bring
me.
Carl into the
Yeah.
conversation about, so we're talking a lot about shows and the value of like the front runners, like which I think you guys are, all of you on this call, guys and gal, because you're out there in front of people and you're sharing BMX. And Carl, you do a lot of shows. I don't even know how many you do, even through the winter. Don't you do it in snow? It doesn't really matter. Like you do it year round in Nebraska.
Sometimes if we get an indoor setup or something like that. Yeah, a couple of years ago, we performed in a bar with like a 30 by 15 space. And I remember the bar owners, like, they allowed us to bounce off their walls. So I built 2 quarter pipes that I could get in and build in under 10 minutes so that we could sneak in between bands.
Wow.
So we had like 25 minutes to essentially build a half pipe, do a show, and get out.
Wow.
So we were nervous about that, but we accomplished it and it was super fun and people loved it. So we try and take on any. I mean, I see Keith King's on here. He's like the show. He's like the guy when it comes to shows. I noticed you do a lot of shows,
Thank
Keith.
you.
So
I appreciate it.
Dave, I don't mean to sidestep off the show thing real quick. If I could just say one thing really fast as I just got here. I see Eddie Fiola's on here, and Eddie, I want to thank you so much. I had a friend of mine who had passed away from cancer a year ago, and I know a bunch of riders had reached out to other riders that were iconic and stuff, and somebody reached out to you, and you sent a really nice video while you were in the middle of like filming a movie, I think. And that meant a lot to my friend. You know, he didn't have a lot of those connections, but all the riders that take the time to do stuff like that means the world. So thank you, Eddie, for sending that to him. That was, unfortunately, he didn't make it, but it was real special to him that he had that video from a bunch of riders sending stuff when he was battling that. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. You know, the hard thing is for like things like that, you know, how do you, usually the messages that I give that somebody asks, hey, how's it going? You're good. You're having fun, and then somebody says, hey, my buddy's dying of cancer and can you send something? What do you say? And
I know.
It was heartfelt. It was definitely, hard to think about what he has to go through and what their family's going through. And, but it's definitely, something that, happens as we're all getting older. We all have friends that are getting into that spot, and Gail is trying to tell me that she's got to take off. So she's got an appointment. I'm out of here. Good seeing you guys. And
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be on your program.
Gail, thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you
No.
for telling what you told.
That's all right. Kids are number one, always, no matter how old you are. Take care.
Thank you
Thanks,
for all you've done,
Thanks.
Gail.
See
We really
ya.
appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Eddie.
Love all you guys.
bye. See you guys.
So Carl, how many shows do you do a year?
I don't know. We were pretty busy the last few years. This year, I'm trying to take a step back and, well, like we'll do our state fair and a couple big things. I don't want to travel a lot anymore. I'm trying to keep everything in Nebraska, and I'm trying to minimize the amount of time it takes away from our nonprofit. And because the reason we started doing shows in the first place, at least for me, was
Yo, check that out. So this is the second hour of a 3+ hour show. Hit the link to find out what is the backstory to why Carl started doing shows in the first place. You will adore it.